I've just got done building this little trough for the pigs. They don't seem to figure out yet that there's 3 different bays. As always, they're fighting over nothing. We had an old 55 drum that I was trying to use. I tried to make one of those big dog water things that's vacuum sealed on the top, and so it doesn't, it maintains a constant water level. Well, I couldn't quite get it to seal, so I ended up just drilling a bunch of holes in it and then trying to seal those holes up, and it never really ended up panning out. There's supposed to be the dish that was going to be filled up. It was going to be quite the water tank, but couldn't seem to get it to work. So I ended up repurposing this because they had outgrown that trough over there that I'm using for the chickens now. So this is pretty big. This is going to be, I think, more than enough to be our permanent feeding system. You can see there on the ground, I secured it in. About 3/4 buried a log and pounded it in, with just the soil around it. And then just zapped it in there. That's not pig proof, but nothing's pig proof. They're gonna wreck it if they ever get the desire to. They'll wreck the shit out of anything they want to. Like, look, he's already trying. He's already working on it, but it shouldn't go anywhere. Even if they move it around, it should be pretty much solid in place. And even if it's not, it's never gonna be broken. They can't break the plastic. So that's something. They seem to be enjoying their first few bites of feed out of there. We had about 50 pounds of old fruit from the hotel that we brought down here, peaches and strawberries, and I think there's a pineapple, but I don't think they ate it. So they're not hungry by any means, but they'll devour this feed. At the end of the day, it's just a bucket full. I actually need to mix them some more feed. But they're loving it. I mean, they love it out here. I'm getting bit by something. Fucking don't like how it feels. Maybe I just got... Ouch! A lot of biting insects out here. I don't know all of them yet, but they're not fun. They're not just mosquitoes. There's all sorts of bullshit. Oh, look at these guys. Look at these fat motherfuckers. Fat boys. They're all muddy. I like to give them a good spray. I give them a good shower every now and then because it's so hot. I'd like to get a kiddie pool and fill it up for them, but there weren't any at the yard sales we stopped at this weekend, so they can wait on that. I filled up their water today, and that, I left it for a while and kind of forgot it was there, so it made a little bit of a muddy patch for them, so they'll stay nice and cool. But yeah, just a new trough. Got the old trough over there. Just zapped that together out of some old lumber, but it's not big enough. It's good when they were kittens. They weren't kittens, I mean piglets. They're getting to be some honkers now. I don't even know how much they weigh. I don't have a scale or anything. All I know is that when we loaded them up, we picked them up like one by one by the back legs. And I'm not convinced I could pick these boys up. I mean, they're pretty big. They're probably at least 75 pounds, if not 100 now. And they're fat. Look at that butt. Look at that ham right there. Fat boys. In other news, I finally got a watering system set up. It's not much. It's, just a classic impact sprinkler. But evidently, I was pretty worried because I sowed seeds out here. Oh, I gotta hurry, I'm gonna get sprayed. Go. I had prepared all of these beds. I built them, with solid wood core. You can actually see some of the wood sticking out here. Solid wood core, and then piled up all the subsoil from beneath it. So it's basically just straight up subsoil, just clay and sand and stuff. There's not really much for topsoil in there, or organic matter for that. So there's not much water retention value right now. These logs at the base are amazing water retention value come next spring, and they can soak up all the spring water, and they'll stay wet for months, which is great. But right now they're dry because we couldn't build the beds during the spring because it was too wet to get even the digger out here. But I sowed these seeds anyway. I got a little, I just threw them on top and then threw some compost on top of them. That's why it's all spotted, because we had some compost that Nick got from his egg supplier that the guy kept telling us was a couple of years old, but you dig a shovel in, you'd hit clumps that were wet, like wet sheep shit. And so I don't feel comfortable about applying that to the top of the soil where it could, you know, where it can touch the food. So we put that in the bottom. That's buried a couple of feet down, underneath all this subsoil. I had to do a lot of shovel work to get the compost underneath the subsoil, because while we were here with the digger, we couldn't quite, you know, the digger, it was just too fine scale work for the big machines to do. But I just threw them on top of the soil, broadcast seeded them old school style, and threw soil on top instead of trying to bury each, you know, it's just a waste of time. But it's also hard to work a rake in here. Normally when you broadcast seed, you would work a rake and then throw seeds in and then work the rake again. But you can't really work a rake in here because there's just lots of sticks and stuff. It's pretty obnoxious. But as you can see, even with what meager rains we've been getting, and I just got that watering system set up today because I was worried about it, about germination, but even with just a couple of moist days, not even really wet, we hardly, you know, this soil's been pretty much bone dry this whole time. We've hardly gotten any major rains. But the beans are coming. And so are the turnips. Which is pretty great, because frankly, I didn't really do anything. I just put the seeds in the ground. I didn't even water them, like the day of. I just waited for the rain, and we didn't really get much. You know, we got maybe a half inch, and very spotty and hot days. So I was pretty much expecting no seeds to have sprouted yet. There's even some tiny little, I think these might be kales, or some kind of salad green. A lot of baby greens out here. But the beans are coming. They're coming in force, especially right here, which might be because this area is a little less. There's this big gap in the sky right here, so it gets a little bit more of the direct rain. Some of these areas over where I've got the sprinkler head right now is in shade a lot of the time, which is just fine because I don't want to burn the plants or anything like that. We can grow in that much shade. But when it rains, a lot of the rain doesn't actually make it to the ground. It just stops in the trees. You'll notice when it's raining out here, it'll be dry under the trees and wet everywhere else. So I think over here it's getting the rain, what little rain we've gotten this July, and it's working great. But isn't that crazy? Look at this. These are definitely turnips, because I seeded on this side of every bed. I seeded roots, mostly turnips, because I had a 1 pound bag of turnip seeds, which pretty much sowed everything. So on this side of every bed is turnips. There's a few beets up there, but mostly turnips. And on this side is greens, because this side stays a little shadier because the sun's over there. And on the top is beans, because it just made sense to me that way. Beans like good drainage. Turnips don't really care. Turnips grow anywhere. And they like the direct sun, because if you're harvesting the roots, you want the direct sun. And if you're harvesting the fruits, you want the direct sun. If you're harvesting the greens, you want a little shade. So the beans will shade the greens, in theory. But I know these are turnips because I planted turnips pretty much everywhere, and they look like turnips. And they are coming on thick, which is awesome, because I can harvest baby greens. I can harvest them as baby turnips, which means they don't even really need to be separate at all. I don't need to thin these or anything like that. And I could harvest thinnings to send as baby greens to the old Adelphi Hotel. And then after I've thinned, a couple weeks later, I can harvest baby roots and leave some just dotted throughout to fill in the space. And a couple months later, I can harvest the big boys. So I can pretty much get 3 turnip harvests out of this space. Or maybe I'll just wait and just do thinnings and babies. I'm gonna eat this. Maybe I could just wait and do turnips and babies, and then do another seeding. That way we can get 2 harvests of baby turnips. They'll probably sell for a better price than the big boys anyway. But maybe we can feed the big boys to the other big boys. Many plans remain. But we got seeds coming up. And the pigs now have enough food that they can eat their heart's content. I don't have to feed them 2-3 times a day like I've been doing. I can just fill that motherfucker up. That's all for now.